Welcome to today's session. Today, we are going to talk about source of finance for entrepreneurs. It is a very important session. Needless to add, finance is something which is the most daunting task to take care of, to arrange, and there are millions of people who would have become entrepreneurs if there was easy source of finance. So what we are going to talk about are the sources of finance and how do we pitch for it? How do we present the documents so that we make our chances of securing the finances better? So, what we're going to talk about, why most new ventures need funding, the importance of getting financing or funding. And then we're going to talk about the various sources of financing, which is personal financing, equity funding, debt financing. And then, of course, we have the angel investors and the venture capitalists. Post that, we're going to talk about what are the documents required to take finance or loan. And we are also going to touch upon the types of financial institutions that exist in India. And last but not the least, we are going to talk about state and central government schemes for entrepreneurs in India. The number of schemes are many. There are some which are generic, and there are some which are very specific to a particular industry, and rightly so, because their purposes are accordingly tailored. So first, we are going to talk about why most new ventures need funding. It is not an obvious question with an obvious answer. Now, the importance of getting financing or funding. First is, just like we open bank accounts and we use various kinds of financial instruments, it is not that every normal citizen tries to take loan from the bank, especially business loan. We take car loans, take personal loans, we take home loans. But taking loan for businesses is something that rarely people do that, because there are hardly a small percentage of the population, not just in India, but everywhere in the world, who are either professionals or who are self-employed professionals, or who are working with organizations as a salaried person. So it is mostly the businessmen who raise capital. A common person does not know how to raise capital. And as a result, many entrepreneurs go about the task of raising capital haphazardly because they lack experience in this area. And the various concepts and fundamentals and rules that need to be observed when taking a business loan is something that not everyone is familiar with. And why most new ventures need funding? There are three reasons that we're going to talk about. The three reasons why most new ventures need to raise money during their early life. The first one is cash flow challenges. The irony of life and irony of business is that all the expenses start occurring the day you start operating. You'll have to pay for the raw material, you'll be paying the salary, you'll be paying the rent, and all the other things. You have to pay that now. But when are the revenues going to come? We do not know. So expenses come in advance, but revenues or profits, we don't know when they are going to come. Because of that uncertainty, you need money to ensure that the company keeps running uh, over a period of time till such time your revenues don't start coming in. Second is heavy capital investments. So when you're starting a business, you could require real estate, you might require facilities, You rent it out, or you may have to build facilities. And then, of course, you may require machinery and equipment. And startups rarely have that much of money. So, because of this reason, also, new ventures need financing. And if you are into product innovation, you want to offer something innovative, something new to the customers, you want to offer a new solution to an existing problem, you may have to work on the product development. And it is a known fact throughout the world that some products take a lot of time, maybe years, before they start generating earnings. So you come up with ideas, you develop the products, and it takes a lot of time to fine tune, and the product is able to do that thing which you want. It takes a lot of time. So when we are looking at spending that much of time on research and development, during that time you will be paying people for the materials, for their expertise, for the research that they're doing, for the experiments that they're doing. So for many years you may have to pay them, and you don't know when you will be able to crack the code. Just like people who are working on creating a vaccine for COVID-19, you do not know how much time would it take. So till that time, how are you going to sustain yourself? That's why you need financing or funding. So now we're going to talk about source of finance, which is going to take care of most of the excuses that we have. And how do we arrange for the funds? Where do you where do you get the money from? We're going to talk about the source of finance. So the four major segments that we're going to talk about. One is personal financing, which is what comes from us. Then there is equity funding. Then there is debt financing, and we're of course going to talk about the angel investors and the venture capitalists. So first, we're going to talk about source of finance in terms of internal sources and external sources. Internal sources are you, your family, whatever is coming from within. And external sources are all the sources which are external to you. So first, we're going to talk about the internal sources. There are personal sources like your savings, fixed deposits, other mistakes like you have paid some money to somebody, and they need to give it back to you, and other such. You may have just kept money somewhere. And then borrowing from friends and family is again a personal source. And then the credit cards. We will talk about the credit cards. A little peculiar, but then comes handy when you are in dire straits, in sticky situations. We'll talk about retained profits, and then we'll talk about the share capital, which is invested by the founder. The money that you invest is internal source. The money you take from outside and you give them the shares, you also share the ownership with the outsiders. That is the external source. In external sources, we are going to talk about the loan capital. Loans come from bank. So there are two ways of taking money from the bank. One is bank loan, and the other is bank overdraft. Then we'll talk about the share capital, outside investors, that is external source. And then we'll talk about debentures. We'll talk about business angels, and we'll talk about venture capital. So first, in detail, we're going to talk about internal sources. Internal sources, number one, personal sources. Most startups make use of the personal financial arrangements of the founder. Three people working together, all of them are going to, you know, arrange for whatever money they have. That is the first thing that you do. Second, uh, you dip into your personal savings, and then other accumulated cash, money lying somewhere, deposited with somebody, all those sources. Then there are retained profits or reinvestment of profits. Now, what happens in this case is that over a period of time, when you have started operating and you are having profits now, so at the end of 3 months or 6 months or 1 year, you will be paying dividends to yourself and to the shareholders. Now you realize that to expand the market or to add more products to your portfolio, you will need funds. So you decide that instead of giving distributing the profits, instead of distributing 100% of the profits, you may keep, let's say, 50 or 60 or 70% of the profits to be plowed back, be put back into the business, and you just distribute 30% of the profits to yourself and to the other shareholders. So if you retain this amount and reinvest it, you will not have to float, or you don't have to arrange for the funds again. Meaning to say that if you want to raise funds, then you have to go through the process, a formal process, where you get in touch with people and you try to raise the funds. Or if it is through stock markets, then you will have to go through the entire documentation process, get it approved from the government, and then you can raise funds from the capital markets, from the general people of India. So that process is called floating the issue. So by way of floating the issue, you are telling everyone that you need funds, and then you take the funds from them and you issue the shares to them. So this entire process is called floating, and this involves a lot of cost. So the money that you have, instead of distributing it to the shareholders, might as well use it again. So therefore, you are going to save the cost of rotation. Of course, there are savings and other nest eggs like redundancy and inheritance. Suppose you have inherited a piece of land, or maybe a building, or maybe a flat. You could start an office over there, or a research wing over there. Redundancy. Suppose you have two cars, so you can use one and you can use the other one for the business purpose. So anything that redundancy is extra. So anything extra that you have, maybe a laptop or a desktop lying idle, you can use it for uh, for the business purpose. Then we talk about mortgaging. You want money. The bank says, "What do you have that you can, mortgage to us, against which we can give you the money?" So normally banks ask you for a mortgage. It can be a building, it can be a land, it can be gold, it can be anything else. So you have to mortgage something, or you have to pledge something tangible, which has certain value in the market right now, let's say 100 rupees. So bank is going to ascertain the value of that tangible asset and will give you somewhere around 60 to 70% of that value. So let's say if you have a house which is worth 1 crore rupees, if you submit the papers with the bank, against that, the bank will be ready to give you 60 or 70 lakhs. Now, mortgaging is one of the most popular way of raising loan related capital for a startup. So the flip side is, if your business fails, you will lose the profit. That's the risk that comes with businesses. Then, of course, we want to borrow from friends and family, because they are the ones who know us and they are the ones who will support us, not the unknown random people, at least in the initial stage. So friends and family who are supportive of the ideas, of the business idea, may provide money either directly to the entrepreneur or into the business. And what we're saying is, you make the presentation to the friends and family members. They may get interested. They may give you the money, and you put the money in the business in your name. Or they may say that, no, we would want to invest in your business. We'll invest in your business and you give us the shares. And then we have credit cards. Everyone knows about it. It's an ingenious way of financing a startup. Let's say your startup requires about 10 lakhs. And if three of the partners, they use their credit cards, you would be able to raise somewhere around 75,000, maybe a lakh, or maybe more if your card has a higher limit. Now, what you can do is that, and this is something that you should use as a last resort. If you don't have money and you're not able to arrange for money, then you may use the credit. Each month, let's say you pay for various business related expenses on a credit card. So what you can do is that, let's say you want to buy raw material, you can pay by credit card. And the credit card gives you at least 45 days period. So 45 days, when the revenue starts coming in or when your payments start coming back, then you can pay the credit card. Now, in case within those 45 days, the money does not come in, then you can use another credit card to pay for the credit that you have taken from the first credit card. So that is your rotating the credit from one credit card to another. So from one card you have, let's say, paid 50,000 rupees. You use another credit card to withdraw 50,000 rupees and then you pay to the first credit. And you can go on like this for a certain period of time. So this is not such a great option, but it is one such option just in case you get stuck. Then the internal sources, share capital, uh, the money that you provide for the business. Against that, you will be keeping certain amount of shares. When you float a company, and let's say the company is worth 1 crore, and you are investing 10 lakhs, then you are going to keep 10% of the shares of that company. And that is a share capital that is being provided by you. And you are the internal source. Now, once you have invested the money in the firm, in the business, and the business owns that money, what you have is the shares. Other contributors, they can become shareholders if they contribute. They'll be known as members of the firm. Shareholders are known as members of the firm. And how do the shareholders make money? So when they buy your shares, every year when you are doing profits, you will be sharing the profits proportionately with the shareholders. That is called dividends. And the other way the shareholders can make money is that today they invested 1 lakh rupees in your business. After 5 years, the value of the business has tripled. So this shareholder who had bought shares worth 1 lakh rupees will be able to sell the shares for 3 lakh rupees. So that shareholder will make 2 lakh rupees profit in 5 years. They have tripled their money in 5 years. That is also one way the shareholders make money. Then we will talk about the external sources. First external source that we're going to talk about is loan capital. The loan comes from the bank, and there are several forms, but the most common are bank loan and bank overdraft. A bank loan, which comes from the commercial banks, and this long-term finance. If you want long-term finance, you want to borrow long-term, and you take it from the bank. Bank will give you. There are some banks which will give you long-term finance. There are other banks which give you short-term finance. Long-term finance is what we require for the infrastructure, and short-term finance is what we require for the operations, to run the business, to pay the salaries, to buy the raw material, and to take care of all those sundry things that occur on a daily basis. So that is short-term finance. Now, when you talk about long-term finance, bank states the time period for how long will that loan be, what will be the rate of interest, and the timing and amount of repayments. So normally, timing is 3 months. So every 3 months, you have to pay your quarterly payments. So every 3 months, how much money you have to pay for, let's say, 10 years. So every 3 months. That's the standard that we have in India. Of course, banks are going to ask for security. Can be in terms of mortgage. It can also be in terms of personal guarantees. You can provide the personal guarantee, or some of your uncles or some other relative, they can um, provide the personal guarantee to the bank, against which the bank can give you the loan. And the money that is required is, in terms of fixed assets. Whenever you take long-term finance, the rate of interest is low. Bank draft, which you are going to talk about, uh, in case of bank draft, you have the rate of interest is high. And long-term finance, flexibility is low, meaning to say that every now and then you cannot change the structure of the long-term finance. But in case of bank draft, the flexibility is very high. We'll see how. Now, what is bank overdraft? It is a cash credit. Now, what happens is that when you do business, you will be making payments for all the things that you're buying, and you will be getting payments for all the things that you sell. Now, on a daily basis, it will be difficult for you when you are doing great business. You may not realize that you have made more payments than the amount of money that you have in your bank account. So what is meant by this is that you are making payments by check. So when you are making the payments by check, let's say you have made payments to 5 people, 5 different organizations, and the total value of the payment by check is, let's say, 1 crore rupees. And today there is 80 lakh rupees in your account. So the bank is going to honor the checks and is going to make the payments to all of them. By the time the bank is about to make the payment to the fifth person, they see that there is no money left in your account. So the bank calls you up and says that, sir, you have issued these many checks, out of which one of the check cannot be honored because there is no money in your account. So bank offers that we can give you bank overdraft. Now, what is bank overdraft? This 20 lakh deficit that is there in your account, and you have already issued the check. The bank, your bank, will make the payment of the 20 lakh, and your check is not going to bounce. And on a daily basis, the bank is going to charge you the rate of interest. And it will be like somewhere around 0.05%, something like that. And whenever money comes back into your account, they are going to adjust accordingly. So if 10 lakh has come, then the bank is going to adjust that 10 lakhs, and there'll be 10 lakh outstanding. So next day, you will be paying interest only on that 10 lakh. And suppose next day another 5 lakh comes. So the bank takes that 5 lakh, and there is still 5 lakh deficit in your account. So the third day, you will be paying interest only on that 5 lakh. That's the kind of flexibility that you have in a bank overdraft. And almost all banks will give you the bank overdraft facility based on your business, based on your banking transactions. Now we talk about the share capital, the money that is coming from outside investors, the money which they are giving and against which they are taking shares from. Now the first obvious ones are your friends and relatives. They are the main source of outside external investor as a startup. And so that is the easiest and the most obvious source of finance. But the downside is almost inevitably tensions develop with relatives and friends as fellow shareholders. And it is so prevalent in India that over a period of time, your relations with your own friends and relatives, they are adversely affected because money is involved. And there's a famous saying that do not mix, relations and family, relations and business. It's rightly said, it's not a rule cast in stone. Point is that if you work with clarity, such things would not happen, or even if it happens, then you know how to handle it. And then we are going to talk about two very important investors, business angels and venture capitalists or venture capital fund. Business angels are individual investors, mostly in their 50s, 50 years of age. They typically invest relatively smaller amounts, small investments, between 10 lakhs to 5 crores. And it is from their personal capital. And the best part is they are ready to invest in your startup even when you have not started. They'll help you in standing up. And they prefer to invest in high growth businesses. They look at least 30% to 40% return per year. They also provide skills, experience, and contacts because they have so much of money, 50 years of age, so a lot of skills, a lot of experience, a lot of contacts. That's going to come along with them. They'll help you with a lot of things. So getting the backing of an angel is a big advantage. But the flip side is loss of control over the business because they are senior, they know so much that they will sometimes they start encroaching on your authority and they'll start suggesting things to you. They'll later on gradually they'll start dictating things to you, which you may not like. But that is something that will come with any investor. When we talk about venture capital, now this is something again important. It's private equity. VC funds are limited partnerships of money managers who raise money in funds to invest in startups and growing firms. So these fund managers, they raise money from individuals, from other businesses, and they create a venture capital. And they invest in startups and growing firms. These funds or pool of money are raised from wealthy individuals, pension plans, university endowments, foreign investors, and similar sources. A typical fund is $75 million to $200 million, which is far more than what angel investors can invest. And VCs, they invest in 20 to 30 companies over a period of 3 to 5 years. And they are known to give funds to very few entrepreneurial firms as compared to business angels. VC funds, they mostly invest in startups and small businesses with exceptional growth potential. They are far more aggressive than business angels. And normally they are not known to invest in startups. In the startup phase, they invest in that phase where you have created the product, you have rolled out into the market, people have used the product, the feedback is great, your sales are increasing, and you are now ready to expand. This is the first phase where the VCs would want to pitch in. Then, of course, there are phase two, phase three, round one, round two, round three. So round one, round two, round three is these are the rounds where the venture capitalists they come. Seed capital, that is mostly by the business angels. And there is one more instrument, which is called debentures. It is a type of debt instrument that is not secured by physical asset or collateral. The rate of interest paid by the firm is predetermined and fixed, unlike shares. In this case, what happens is you will issue debentures to people. So you'll give a certificate, which is called debenture, to people. People are going to give you money. So when they give you money, you give these debenture certificates to them. In this case, what happens is that you state in the debenture certificate clearly that you are taking the money for 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, and how much rate of interest will you pay every year. That is a debenture. Debenture is also an instrument which you can use to raise funds. In case of shares, when you take money and give shares to people, then those people become shareholders, they become owners of your organization. So they are going to share ownership with you. But in case of debentures, they have given you the money, you will be paying them back the principal amount, and you will be paying them a fixed interest rate. They do not become owners with you. So debenture is again a great instrument. So with that, we are going to now discuss the sources of short-term finance and long-term finance. This is very interesting. And after we have gone through the entire session, you will realize there are so many avenues, so many methods of raising capital. Your apprehensions, your excuses, your fear of the uncertainties, or the uncertainties themselves are going to reduce. People don't want to get into entrepreneurship because there are a lot of uncertainties and they do not know whether they will be able to handle those uncertainties. Now, this session is going to remove majority of the uncertainties and is going to provide you with the knowledge of most of the possible avenues and the methods of raising the finances. And by that, it is going to raise the confidence in you to take the first step towards your own business, entrepreneurship. So the first source of short-term finance that we're going to talk about is trade credit. This trade credit is something which is prevalent when you do business. Initially, you may not get trade credit, but over a period of time, you will get trade credit. It is interest-free credit from suppliers, purchase of supplies without immediate payment. So everyone gets credit. So if you buy, let's say, the raw materials, you'll get a credit period of, let's say, 45 days. Now, in these 45 days, you don't have to pay anything to the supplier. You don't have to pay any interest on that. And you have taken the raw material, you are going to use labor, you're going to use your infrastructure, and you are going to convert the raw material into finished goods. So quite possibly within 45 days, you have done the production, you have already supplied it to the market, and you may also get paid for it. So this 45 days period where you don't need the money is like a source of finance. Credit period depends on the nature of the product. There are a lot of products in which a lot of credit period is given. And for some products, there is no credit given. There is no credit period. So when you talk about pesticides, they always sell cash, no credit period. But if you talk about leather products, shoes, etc., the credit period is as long as 6 months in some cases. Credit period depends on the location of the customer. If the customer is nearby, if you're close to your supplier, geographically you are situated close to the supplier will give you more credit period because they know that you're close by only. So, but if someone is situated in another city or in another country, then the credit period will be less. Maybe suppliers would not be even ready to give you credit period because you're situated far away, and how will they, control you, or how will they be able to get the money from you just in case you're not paying up or something like that. Degree of competition in the market. If the competition is high, the credit period will also be high because there's so much of competition. Raw material suppliers, they want to supply and there is a lot of competition. So how do they lure you? How do they attract you? By giving you the trade credit. And if the financial sources of the supplier, if the supplier is financially strong, they'll be able to give you great trade credit. And the eagerness of suppliers to sell his stocks. So if the supplier is ready, eager to sell the stock because it has been lying around for a long time, they just want to dispose it as soon as possible. In that case, they will give you a lot of credit. And then another interesting source of short-term finance is installment credit. Imagine, and we do it with Bajaj Finance or other finance companies, mostly for buying TVs and cell phones, expensive ones. They give this installment credit. So supplier of equipment may, if you ask them, they may allow payments in installments. So let's say you're buying machinery worth 1 crore. and you say that, can we, split it in installments? 1 crore is a lot of money, and you can tell the person that, if you can give me installment credit, I'll buy it from you. Otherwise, I'll go somewhere else. So they may agree to this. So you make certain amount of down payment. Normally, it is 25%. And the rest of the 75% can be given in 8 months or 12 months, which is 8 installment or 12 installments. So imagine you are buying something worth 1 crore. You're starting the business, but when you right now, day zero, you have only paid 25 lakhs. 75 lakhs you haven't paid. So what you are not paying right now is a source of finance. And then every month you are paying, let's say, 5 lakh rupees. That is again something which is manageable. Arranging for 1 crore and then paying all of that is going to be a far more difficult task. So installment credit acts as a source of finance, short-term finance. So you can take these installment credit, supplier charges interest on the installment credit, which is fine, 10%, 12%, something like that. But at least you are ready to go. You are ready to operate. Yeah? So imagine if you require 5 crore rupees to start a business, and you have to arrange only 1 crore right now, and every month you have to arrange for 10 lakh rupees per month. That is far easier than arranging 5 crores right now. This is again something which you can use. It's a great instrument to, to reduce your requirement today. As on today, you need lesser amount of money because there is installment credit. Then we have accounts receivable financing. So suppose you have sold something to somebody, and these people have not paid up right now. They will be, and you have also given a credit to that company to whom you have supplied. And let's say after 45 days, they are going to pay because you have given them the credit. So you can, so there's a document in which is a purchase order. Again, the purchase order you have supplied. There is a challan which has been signed by the other party that yes, you have received the goods. This is a proof that you have delivered the goods and they will be paying you the money. In how many days? All of that is there in the documents, these bills, the purchase order and the challan. You can submit this to the finance company and tell them that, this much money is supposed to come to us in 35 days. Against this, can you give us some money? So that is taking some advance from the finance companies. Finance companies are going to keep that the accounts receivable document, so that when you get them, when your debtor, when the other party gives you the money, then you are going to return the money to the finance company, whatever amount of money is outstanding. Then you have discounting of bills. Now, this is again very popular. Commercial banks finance the business concerned by discounting their credit instruments like bills of exchange, promissory notes, and hundies. And you can read about bills of exchange, promissory notes, and hundies. These are all such documents which is a proof that from some party is going to pay you at a later date. And these are like credible documents, bills of exchange, promissory notes. Now you can submit it to the bank, and let's say the value of the document is 100 rupees. And this 100 rupees is going to come after 2 months from the other party. You submit this document with the bank and you tell them that 100 rupees is going to come after 2 months time. I want to discount, as in I want the money right now. So you charge me the interest for these 2 months. So 2% is the time value of money per month. So the bank will give you 96 rupees right away. The bank has deducted 2 rupees per month for 2 months. So that is, the bank has deducted 2% per month, and for 2 months they have deducted 4%. Instead of 100 rupees, which you're going to get after 2 months, you'll get 96 rupees right away from the bank. So this is also uh, managing funds even when you are supposed to get the money at a later date. Today, if you want the money, what do you do? So whatever you are supposed to get after some time, discount it. And banks can do that for you. Then customer advance, this is again great. Customers make a part payment in advance to the manufacturer, particularly in case of special order, big orders. One source of finance is, let's say I want to do an order of 1 crore rupees. Now this 1 crore rupees worth of order, let's say my profit percentage is 25%, which means when I'm taking an order of 1 crore rupees, I need 75 lakh rupees to do that order. And the other 25 lakh is my profit. So to do the order, I need 75 lakhs. I have to tell the customer that, so the order is big and we would require you to give us at least some advance. So the customer asks, or the client asks that, how much advance do you want? Says, sir, if you can just give us 50% advance right now, it will be great. So imagine you are going to do an order of 1 crore. You need 75 lakh rupees for that. And you've taken advance of 50 lakh rupees from the customer itself, the client. So now there is a shortfall of 25 lakhs. Now imagine you are also taking trade credit of 45 days. So you have taken the raw material without paying the money, and you will be paying the money after 45 days. So to do an order of 1 crore rupees, you need 75 lakh rupees. You have taken an advance from the customer only 50 lakhs. You need 25 lakhs, and the raw material also you have taken without paying. So the only thing that you'll have to pay immediately is the rent of the factory and the salaries of the workers and other things. So for that you have 50 lakh rupees. So to do an order of 1 crore rupees, you might think that how would we do it? Now these are the solutions to how would you do it. And someone who is placing an order of 1 crore rupees, they will have to give some advance. Yeah. And to do an order of, if so, two things. If you can get credit for the raw material from the market, normally if you make a product worth 100 rupees, then 70 rupees is the cost of the raw material. You only need 30 rupees to do the order in terms of overheads and your factory rent and labor and other things. If you just need 30 rupees, that 30 rupees can be taken as an advance from the client. That would suffice. And you can do the order immediately, submit it, give the delivery to the client, take the money, and then you can pay the raw material supplier and to others. So fairly easy to handle if you look at it. And now we will talk about, so those were the short-term finance. We'll now talk about the long-term finance. Capital markets are the best, biggest, largest sources of long-term finance. Capital markets are the stock markets. Transactions take place among individuals and various organizations. Companies raise funds by issuing shares and debentures of different types. So there is primary market and secondary market. Capital market is when you raise an IPO, an initial public offering. You tell the government there is a business plan. Normally, startups are not listed on the stock market. You have to be doing business for a certain amount of time. Based on your business performance and the credibility that you have been able to generate, now you want to expand big time, all of India, maybe all of the globe, and you're 100, you're doing, let's say, 100 crore turnover, and you want to raise 500 crores. So you go to the government and you say that, we need 500 crores, and this is how we are going to do things. The government is going to take all the required documents from you. You'll have to do all the explaining and everything. Do all of that. Then the government is going to allow you to offer the initial public offering, IPO, to the citizens of India. So you issue you issue the shares. So people, if they like your project or they they are interested in investing in your company, they're going to buy your shares. The first time when you're offering it to the market and people are buying your shares, that is called primary market. Secondary market is when your company is already listed on the stock market and a person A buys it from person B, not from you. So that is secondary market. So you go to the stock market and then you can buy anything that you want anytime, and you can sell it to anyone anytime. That is secondary market. Primary market is when the company is giving the shares to you and you are paying the money to the company. That is primary market. Capital market is essentially stock market. That is the last thing that people try to do. The last thing, as in, it is the largest thing that one can do. That you go public, you offer your shares to the public. That's the biggest thing that you can do. And you do it in India, and then you do a global deposit. So that is something that happens 5, 10, 20 years later. If you have really grown great, and you don't want to sell the company, you want to keep it, and you want to expand it big time. I've come to another one, another source of long-term finance, special financial institutions, which are the development banks. Now, these provide long-term financial assistance to industrial enterprises. Long-term finance is for infrastructure. At national level, we have IFCI, Industrial Finance Corporation of India, ICICI. Today, ICICI was like way back in 1946, Industrial Credit and Investment Corporation of India. Today, they do not function the way they were earlier. That's why ICICI now is not a valid uh, source of long-term finance national level. But they have gotten into retail banking and other things. So that's why you don't see the full form of ICICI these days. So the valid ones today are IFCI, Industrial Finance Corporation of India, and Industrial Development Bank of India. Now these two banks, IFCI and IDBI, they are at national level and they will provide you the funds for infrastructure. In state level, we have state financial corporations, state industrial development corporations. So let's say if you are in Delhi, so it's going to be Delhi State Financial Corporation or Delhi State Industrial Development Corporation. If you are in Mumbai, then it's going to be Maharashtra State Financial Corporation, State Financial Corporation, MSSC or MSIDC, which is Maharashtra State Industrial Development Corporation. And these are state level bodies and they will give you long-term finance for your infrastructural requirements. And then there are other institutions. Again, they are huge, also known as investment companies or investment trusts, which subscribe to the shares and debentures offered to the public by the companies. These are, so we have LIC, GIC, UTI. LIC, Life Insurance Corporation of India, GIC, General Insurance Corporation of India, and UTI, Unit Trust of India. These are all investment companies, and they buy shares of various organizations in large chunks, and they have separate specialists only to handle that investment in various companies. LIC, when it is taking the premium for your insurance, they invest all of that money into the stock market, and that's how they earn. And that is how they are able to, just in case you have a problem, there's an accident, somebody dies, how do they pay on the claim? So LIC has to earn money. That's how they do it. So LIC, GIC, UTI, these are three very large investment companies or investment trusts, which invest in these companies which are listed in the stock market. And then there are leasing companies. Leasing companies, they provide you whatever you want, plant, machinery, fixed assets. What you do is you make a lease agreement with the leasing company through whom you can use plant, machinery, fixed assets. Now, what happens is that you have an agreement with the leasing company. The leasing company is going to buy the plant or machinery or fixed assets. They'll buy it and they'll give it to you, and you can use it. And you pay a annual rent after 1 year or 2 years or 3 years. The leasing company gives you the option that if you want to buy it, then you can buy it. And there's a method of calculating the current value. So you take in the machine, I mean, a machine which is 3 years old, what should be the current value of that machine? So that formula is used, and then at that price you can buy the machine from the leasing company. If you don't buy it, then the leasing company is going to take it back from you and it's going to sell it in the open market. But normally, the leasing companies, uh, they would want to give it to you because you are the one who's been using it. So when you are taking the services of the leasing company, you are arranging for the funds. Meaning to say, you need 1 crore rupees to buy the machine. Instead of buying it, for which you'll have to arrange for 1 crore, you go to the leasing company and you say that, this is the machine that I want, worth 1 crore. You buy it and give it to me on lease. And every month I'm going to pay you. So let's say 1 crore is the total value of the machine. And every month you have to pay, let's say, 2 lakh rupees. And you do it for about 7 years. 2 lakh rupees per month is a lot less amount of money required than 1 crore right now. So you can take the services of the leasing company. Of course, if you are proactive enough, if you do your fact finding well, you do your research as well, you do your networking well, there are foreign sources also, foreign collaborators. And if your proposal is approved by the government of India, Indian companies can secure capital from foreign collaborators. Through share capital, like I said, global depository receipts, you can offer your shares to the global market, and you can also collaborate with the foreign company in terms of, let's say, you tell the foreign company that you give me the technical knowledge, give me the patents, you give me the patent, as in you give me the right to use the patent, or you give me the drawings or designs of the plant or supply of machinery. You give me that technical knowledge or the or something, you know, something which is required for business. So let's say you give me the permission to use this patent. Use this patent as in give me the permission to make the product using that process for which you have taken the patent. So you give me that authority, and I'll give you, let's say, 10% of my company, or maybe 20% of the company. So you do your valuation of the company, and accordingly, you can collaborate with the foreign companies. Now, when you are, let's say, you cannot develop your own software, you take the software from a foreign partner. You have saved all the money that would have been required to develop that software. You have saved money, but instead of that, you had to, let's say, give 5% or 10% shares of the company. So you give that 10% shares to the foreign company. At least you have brought down the load of arranging funds, large funds. So when you're starting business, you don't have money, you can give out shares. You just have to be able to convince the parties or the persons or the companies, and you are good to go. We can go a little further, higher, wider, bigger. International financial institutions like World Bank, International Finance Corporation, they provide long-term funds, very, very long-term funds for the industrial development all over the world. Now, World Bank will grant loan to you only the if you if World Bank will grant loan to you only if the government of India takes the guarantee on your behalf. then the World Bank will give you the loan. In case the government of India says, no, I cannot take guarantee, I cannot take your guarantee for whatever reasons, then there is IFC, International Finance Corporation. They assist private undertakings like entrepreneurship. So they assist private companies without the guarantee of member countries, without the guarantee of the government of India. In your case, if not World Bank, there is IFC. And of course, the non-resident Indians. NRIs working in Japan, working in Europe, working in England, working in US, they have tons of money. You can approach them. The persons of Indian origin and nationality living abroad are also permitted to subscribe to the shares and debentures issued by the companies in India. So legally, NRIs are allowed to invest in your company. So you can get in touch with them and you can sound the idea out to them. So let's say you are from Odisha. You can do your research and you can find out how many people from Orissa are there in the Silicon Valley and how many startups do they have. And you can strike up a conversation on email, take an appointment with them, fly to Silicon Valley, meet them, and tell them that this is what I want to do. This is how it is going to help the people of Odisha. You may be able to convince them. And if you fly to Silicon Valley, they will give something to you because you have flown all the way. And anyone who's really serious enough, only that person will make the decision of, will have the wisdom, will be in touch with them by hook or by crook, getting the contact details and everything, and then actually setting up an appointment and flying to Silicon Valley. So, yeah, there's a lot of it means you have integrity and you want to do that business. So that is one way of so NRIs are also one of the best bets when you're talking about raising funds from the at a global level. So with that, we come to documentation needed for taking finance loan, which will be covered in the second part.